Hello, chat room. What's up? I am chilling. Um, just wondering what everyone thinks now that we're in the aftermath of the election. Suffice to say, the world is still spinning. No one has lost their freedoms. Um, no one has lost their lives. Uh, but have been promised some things to come this January. There has been some things. There was a wildfire, two wildfires apparently, both on the East Coast and the West Coast. The fact that they were both on the East Coast and the West Coast and not in other parts of the country leads me to think someone committed arson. But I haven't heard too much of the wildfires since I left the gym a few days ago. Uh, the government uncovered an assassination attempt by some Iranian plotters to assassinate the president upon the president elect upon his re-election, not along with a an Iranian supporter of women's rights. They also wanted to assassinate her as well. I believe she lives in New York. These plotters were funded and trained by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Um, what else? President-elect Trump has promised to um, protect freedom of speech. So this is when people wonder why I'm no longer a progressive, why I supported Trump. This is one of the biggest reasons. So he's now saying that he's not going to allow bureaucrats to, um, go after private businesses, social media, stuff like that. Um, he won't allow them to categorize certain things as misinformation or disinformation. So that whole department of misinformation that Biden and Harris wanted to do 2 years ago, that is done. They wanted to put that under the Department of Homeland Security. That was truly an Orwellian thing. Like, I can't imagine anyone who read 1984 and didn't cringe at the idea of a Department of Misinformation and did not directly see correlations to the Ministry of Information in 1984, where the protagonist was actually working, where his job was to change everything in the news and media to make it what the government wanted it to say. That was literally his job in the book 1984. and that's the exact sort of government agency that the Biden administration wanted to create 2 years ago, until people on both sides of the aisle said this is ridiculous. Then they even said, if he got reelected or she gets elected in his stead, that they were still going to pursue something similar to that. So they wanted to get rid of our cognitive liberty, referring to the ability to think freely, to express yourself in a way that may not confine to conventional, social convention, whatever. So yeah, so Trump is setting things right. Uh, uh and thank you, Stimmy Lemmy. He said, love the stream, keep it up, appreciate it. Funky Jam 13 says that The Rock. Unfortunately, not. Um, what else? What else? So, um, I seen some other stuff he supposedly said, but I'm not sure those were real. Those look like they were AI generated. So we'll see if those are real later. I was wondering what that was. That clinking was. Apparently, it's my Manekiko cat. You know the happy waving cat. He's waving so hard as it's hitting the little bowl thing, my little Chinese dish here, which is hilarious. Can you guys hear that? The little clinking sound. That's literally the cat. Let me show you. That's literally this guy right here. Just it's solar powered. I had to move the bowl. I was like, what is that going on? I thought like I was like shaking the bed or something. You can, but anyway. But so what else is? Oh, so apparently the New York mayor said he's going to stop giving um, food, food and money vouchers to illegal immigrants in New York City. About fucking time. So it only took one day of election before Mayor Eric Adams, whatever the fuck his name is, decided, oh, we're going to stop giving illegal immigrants fucking taxpayer money. It's fucking crazy. Meanwhile, if you're probably a veteran in New York City or you're elderly and disabled, you're not getting shit. But some fucking criminals coming from overseas can just grab money like that, eat well, be up in the fucking Hamptons or something, the Hampton Inn, Holiday Express, while people are living on the streets of New York City who are fucking citizens. And let's be clear, probably one of the biggest reasons he's trying to cozy up to Trump is because his ass is under fucking indictment. Let's be serious. Mayor Eric Adams is under fucking indictment, especially for that little thing that he allegedly did in ties Turkey. So he's probably cozying up to the president, hoping to get a pardon if his dumbass gets convicted. Also, Trump and Elon Musk took a conference call with Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine. Uh, I guess they're gonna try to get something cooking there. Um, Hamas is now saying they want peace because they don't want that smoke. They know that one, Trump wants has told Israel to wrap up this war with Hamas, and which means he's basically given Netanyahu complete support to fucking blow them up to get them the fuck out of Gaza Strip. So now they want peace. Okay, I mean things are working out. Women are flipping out, saying we're not going to sleep with any men for 4 years. Also, now you're going to practice fucking sexual restraint. Kind of the thing people were asking you to do in the first place. Practice sexual restraint. Besides that, whether you have sex or not have sex, who gives a fuck? Like these stupid these stupid bitches were acting like it was a choice between either abstinence or having a baby. As if like, okay, well, if I don't practice abstinence, I might as well just take numerous cream pies. I'm gonna just get raw dog and get numerous cream pies is their alternative to not having sex. So it's either not having sex or them just getting numerously like just jizzed every day all the time. That's it. Okay. Forgetting there's like 3 dozen methods of birth control on the market. 3 dozen. Change my chat filter here to all messages. There we go. Um, but what else, guys? So, um, he hasn't said anything about a smortion. I can't say the real word on here, guys, because YouTube doesn't like that. But I'm pretty sure you get what I mean. So I haven't heard anything on that. But like I said, he did a large. He did that. He he went in on talking about freedom of speech, saying that these social media platforms would not be allowed to curtail people from saying what they want as long as it's legally protected speech. So you can say things that are false. That is legally protected. You can say things that are hateful. That is legally protected. What's not legally protected is, things like, um, like defamation or inciting violence, things, common sense things. But merely saying something that's wrong or that people dislike is legally protected. So he's coming after people like the platform on which I'm currently, and Facebook and others, because these were the ones that were, and he's also going after, again, the bureaucrats within the previous administration, saying he's going to fire them if he knows they were a part of the people who were trying to suppress what people can say on social media. Because we know during the pandemic that Facebook and this platform and others were told by the Biden administration to curtail um, content which which spread information that did not go with what the government was saying was the causes of the pandemic. So people were getting demonetized, getting deplatformed, shadow banned, all that sort of stuff. Like Mark Zuckerberg even went to Congress and then fucking admitted they were that they were told not to allow people to talk about things that went against what the official government uh if answer to the causes of the pandemic and how it's spreading and who it's affecting and stuff like that. Like the Facebook was, Mark Zuckerberg said Facebook, or Meta in general, all his platforms under Meta were told not to allow people to do so. Um, if so, they would be threatened with things like fines or losing their Section C-130 privilege. The section was it 130? Section 230 is basically protects these different media platforms from being sued from what users on that platform may say or do. Um, but it's been threatened numerous times over the past 4 years that they might lose that that protection that is like the last bastion of net neutrality. Without that, there will be no net neutrality without the section C2130. I mean C230, um, which gives these platforms the ability to allow their users to post information and they not be held responsible for it. So a lot of stuff's been going on in the last few days. Then of course we had this meltdown of all these liberals and feminists and black women and anyone who had like blue hair in the septum ring or wore rainbow pride. All these people freaked out. Not a goddamn thing changed for them. These motherfuckers actually held grieving sessions, virtual grieving sessions, throughout the last few days to express their dismay at Kamala not winning. She had so much going against her. Like for one, they they trotted her out in the 11th hour when they forced Biden to step down because they could no longer keep lying to the public as they have been doing for the past 3.5 years that man wasn't suffering cognitive decline. It was obvious he was suffering cognitive decline, but the Biden administration wanted to gaslight everyone, including the media, and thinking that he wasn't suffering cognitive decline when we could see it before our own fucking eyes. And when Kamala was asked about that on that Fox interview, she didn't have an answer for it. She said, "How They asked her why did why did you cover for Biden's cognitive decline all this time?" And she was basically saying he seemed pretty um, lucid um, when they were in the office together. And so the follow up question from the interviewer on Fox was like, well, if that's true, then why did they have you replace him? Which is a good goddamn question. If he was so lucid, then why did they have you replace him? Just because of optics? No. They didn't care about optics because he was already very he was he was already highly unfavorable. But guess what? If he had ran, I'm pretty sure he would, even if he lost, which may have which more than likely would have happened, but even if he lost, it probably would have been a closer race than if it was her. Um, like I said, for the small time she was out there, she actually did a decent job. Like she raised $1 billion, like as soon as it was released by the DNC that she would be taking the place of Biden. Like they raised $1 billion, so that's wild. Um, but apparently they're in debt because Trump, and this is true, because it's been reported in plenty of legacy media platforms, since people always want to use legacy media as the convention, as the standard, uh, so to speak. It's been reported in legacy media, and Trump has tweeted it himself on X that he's like, look, the DNC is in debt. He's like, he was volunteering to pay off the remainder of the debt to the DNC, um, through Harris's campaign. It's funny because it was both. I think it was both genuine and it was it was two. I think it was twofold. One, it was like genuine to say, hey, let's come together and just you know be unified. But it was also a way of saying, hey, I won, and look, I still got money left over to spend. So it's a twofold thing. And one is like, haha, fuck you, this, but it's also like, hey, I'll help. Here you go, guy, for your troubles. But yeah, so that's going on. But yeah, the libs of TikTok, if you guys haven't seen the stuff they've posted all week long, the shit is hilarious. Seeing these people freak out. I saw this one guy doing his virtual grieving. He yelled out into the ether, and then he yelled he turned around every every corner, like north, south, and I'm not joking. If you haven't seen this bocce boy, and if people of Caribbean accent, if you don't know what I meant, ask someone of Caribbean accent what bati boy means. Yeah, but this bati boy yelled to the north, yelled to the east, yelled to the south, yelled to the west. Ah, 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 ah. This one girl, she's melting down her car like, why? One bitch, she's clearly, I think, violating the red flag law for like if she wants to acquire a gun. 'Cause she's literally saying, "I'm gonna buy a gun, and any white man that I see, I'm going to pew pew." And she was like, especially if it's at night and he looks really white, I'm just gonna pew pew. I'm like, yeah, you're not gonna acquire a firearm because someone's gonna pull that up. Someone's gonna pull that up and be like, this bitch just said this. She does not. She violated the red flag law. She cannot get a firearm. Like other women are like, yeah, I guess we're all gonna. One black chick was like, I guess I'm gonna wake up a slave tomorrow. Like what? What? Like this bitch literally said because he got elected, she's gonna wake up a slave tomorrow. Like, bitch, did you forget the first 4 years when he was in office? What bad things happened to black people as a group when he was in office? Nothing. And in case someone wants to say, well, what about all the police shootings, blah, 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 blah. Uh, that happened actually during Obama's term. Like that whole kid in Florida, that's what sort of like set the whole trend of the media finally like acknowledging extrajudicial shootings. I mean, that started on Obama's watch. And on top of that, when you look at the stats, most of the extrajudicial killings are of white people. So it's not a racist thing. It's some cops don't need their job thing because those extrajudicial killings, a lot of them have been white people, not just black people. The majority have been white people. But again, when they started actually like taking notice of this in the media, it happened on Obama's watch with the kid in Florida when he was shot by the Latino guy. And then the what was it, Freddie Gray or whatever? Again, pretty that was still under Obama because I remember where I was working at the time, so that was before Trump came into office. I mean, the big one is another big one was George Floyd, but again, the ones that really set it off, those were all under Obama's watch. So don't say that Trump started all these extrajudicial shootings because he didn't. Um, what else? So then another person was tripping, saying that you're going to turn them into the Handmaid's Tale and all sort of stuff. None of these people even read the fucking book. They're basing it off the show, and even on the show, it's nothing like what's going on now. Like in the show, the sons of Jacob aren't. It's not. They're not politicians. They were basically a an ultra conservative religious group. You know, sort of like the Puritans. So if you were to compare it to something, compare it to the Puritans that took over, but whatever. We don't need to get into all that. The point is, they Sons of Jacob wasn't a politician or political group. They were a ultra conservative religious group that overthrew the government. So there was no government. They overthrew the government. They overthrew the United States government and installed the nation of Gilead. So when people keep saying this is literally the beginning of a Handmaid's Tale, it's literally not. It's literally not at all. It's not. But like I told people in election night, I say even if you're disappointed with the results, just I was like, look, when you wake up, everything is gonna be completely the same as it was. Besides that, people forget he's not gonna even be inaugurated until January. Like they had to go through a process, guys. Like yes, the AP declared a winner that morning, but everything's not tallied up until about December, and it's January when they release the official results of that count. And then there's an inauguration. But to be sure, he definitely won. And it's like people, you can't say it was rigged because it was a blowout. Like, as it stands, the only state that hasn't yet been determined is Arizona, but it's trending red, which means it's more than likely going to go to Trump. But so far, he has 301 electoral counts to Harris's 226 votes. So there's there's no there's nothing wishy-washy about it. It's nothing rigged. I'm waiting for them to start blaming Russian collusion. I mean, they already know they tried to blame black men, and then that little tether, Joy Reid. When I say tether, I'm talking about uh, a person of African heritage that isn't foundational Black American, and wants, but also tries to like denigrate foundational Black Americans, even though they're only here because of their adjacency to foundational Black Americans. That would be Joy Reid, you know, Barack Obama, and Kamala Harris if she has really any black in her at all. But leaving that aside, she's now blaming Latino men. Uh, take some fucking accountability. Just say she didn't run. Look, Trump ran a superior campaign. The 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 Democrats weakened themselves by not forcing Biden to step down earlier. Like I said, if he had stepped down a year earlier and they could have ran a primary, they would have had a strong candidate to run against Trump. No, they didn't do that. And even when he stepped down, they said it was too soon, it was too late to run a primary. No, it wasn't. There are other countries that can run these things within like six can run an entire thing in like 6 months. It's only in America we try to drag this shit out for 2 straight fucking years. Only here. Okay. Most countries don't run a fucking presidential campaign and drag it out for 2 years. We do that shit. That shit could have been done in 6 months. Like they could have, when he decided to step down, they could have done a short primary easily. Between, I know people didn't like Marianne Williams, but she would have been a contender. Um, JFK could have still been under the Democratic banner. Cornel West originally wanted to be a Democrat, but he never tried because he knew they wouldn't support him. Because if he ran, they knew he would take support away from Biden because he's an actual black man. Um, so he ran as an independent. I didn't even see what states actually allowed Cornel West on the ballot. They didn't allow him to do so here in Maryland, and they didn't allow him to do right across the border in Virginia either. Um, but yeah, they could have ran a short primary. But like I said, if Biden had stepped down a year earlier, they could have primaried someone, whether it was Gavin Newsom or what's that other dude? I can't remember, but they could have ran any of those dudes, man. And I'm pretty sure all of them would have outperformed Kamala. Besides that, she wouldn't have surprised. Let's be honest, she wouldn't have survived the primary, guys. She didn't the first time around in 2020. There's no reason to think she would have survived it this time around either, because she would have been criticized for everything that happened under the Biden administration since she was a part of that team as the VP. Anything that people found undesirable about the Biden administration would have been lobbed onto her in any sort of primary, um, debate. So they ran one of the weakest candidates, but they should be happy because, like I said, she came close. But I think she only had so much support for her, not out of love of her, but out of hate of Trump on the left. Most of the people who supported her, like I said, half of them genuinely wanted her, maybe half. but at least half, if not more, were just voting for her because they hated Trump. So, so be it. And I mean, it's apparent, like looking at, like I said, all these little retards have these social meltdowns. And like I said, it's not a lot of it's not even genuine. They're like they literally organize virtual grieving sessions. Like they've texted people, saying asking people if they want to join in at virtual grieving sessions. All these university campuses are coddling their students, telling them they can have a day off for classes because Trump won. Are you fucking serious? They didn't give us a day off when George Bush won, and they look. If you're Gen Z or you're a younger millennial, you're not an older millennial, you probably don't remember this sort of stuff, or you weren't around. But like they, just how evil they're making Trump sound now. This is the same way they made Bush sound back in '99, 2000. He was like, as far as they were concerned, he was the Antichrist. And yes, they pulled the Hitler Nazi card on Bush as well. Like they literally tried to tie his grandfather into being someone who colluded with the Nazis. Like they literally said that of his grandfather, of George Bush's grandfather, that he was connected to the Nazis. And they did it again under Mitt Romney. They tried to say Mitt Romney was like this Mormon fascist. The only person they didn't smear and call a fascist was John McCain, because a lot of them actually respected him as a war hero because he's more of a, it's it's funny, some would consider him a moderate, but he was just a traditional conservative, or what you might call a paleo conservative now. But you know, his because he was part of the establishment, there was love for him on both sides of the aisle. So even though he was having a campaign against Obama, you notice the campaign that the on both sides the mudslinging never got too bad between them, except for that whole swift boating issue, which is another, we won't have to go into that. Like sometimes you can't control what these super PACs do with their money to smear the rival of the person you're supporting, because usually the candidate doesn't control those super PACs. I assume they don't, and I may be being naive, but by and large, the candidates don't control the super PACs that support them, right? So some of these super PACs were slinging mud back and forth, but for the most part, it was not that dirty of an election between John McCain and Barack Obama. But even still, guess what Democrats were saying? This is the most important election of your life. Like they say that every single fucking time. Everyone heard it this election. They was like, well, we know you said it last. You've heard it before, but this time really is the most important election of your life. Freedom is on the line, guys. Like they really want you to believe every time a Republican runs for office that they're going to set time back 200 years, throw every black person in slavery, make every woman like um, naked, serving her husband bare, barefoot and buck naked. Like it's ridiculous the amount of fear mongering that the left does. Um, and like I said, they lost my support 2 years ago when I just saw the amount of dis- disingenuity amongst them, how they were happy to take away people's cognitive liberty in order to support far left views that a lot of that most middle America doesn't support. Most middle America does not support these alternative lifestyles. They don't support extreme feminism. They don't want boys in girls bathrooms. Like they're not they're not going to allow people to play semantic games with biological reality. These sorts of things, like, and then if you disagree with these things, you're a bigot. You're politically incorrect, and we'll come after your jobs. We'll come after your livelihood. We'll make you look bad on social media. Um, we'll make it so that you're undesirable, so that you can't have relationships. Like this, like the cancel culture and the witch hunts and all this sort of stuff. They were so happy to do that, but yet we're screaming about democracy being gone if a Republican gets elected. Whether it was Trump, Romney, Bush, they they use the same tactics all the time. Kelly says hello. Moon sent me. How are you? Oh, I'm doing well, Kelly. What's up? How are you? Sorry for my rant. Since it wasn't really anyone talking, I was just um, well, in the chat room, I was just going over stuff because once I upload this, hopefully it'll get more eyeballs on it during the replay. So, because I know some people be like, "Well, why is he talking to himself?" But I'm gonna like upload this like I do all my live streams. So once these things are uploaded, I do get feedback and comments and stuff like that when people see this broadcast on replay. So to answer anyone's question, why is he talking to himself? But anyway, um, but you can ask me any questions you want, Kelly, or anyone else that's in the chat, as long as it's relevant. I mean, and appropriate. um, but where was I? Yeah, so like I said, they lost me 2 years ago with the craziness. And like I said, the melt. Another thing about the virtual grieving sessions and meltdowns that made me have no sympathy for these people who are crying was how are you crying and talking about you're gonna lose all your freedoms, that the country is gonna like destroy itself and all this sort of things, and you're sitting here grieving on the newest iPhone model, sitting in a luxury vehicle, or you're sitting in your deluxe apartment and you're talking about how bad things are when things are going swimmingly well for you. A person who really is having problems right now is not going to be able to be on a new iPhone in a nice ass car or SUV or an apartment, complain about everything, and then upload it to TikTok. Like, no. JR says Trump is, oh, here we go. JR says Trump is a national embarrassment as the first president as a 34 count convicted felon. No one gives a fuck, JR. Like, you've been preaching that same shit for the past 4 months. Literally, no one cares about that. The 34 count. The only thing you guys can use is 34 counts of of felonies. So what? Those 34 counts all overlap each other. You're not even a lawyer, so who gives a fuck what you think? Like Dennis Sperling is a fucking lawyer. He's already given his analysis on that. So I'm not gonna listen to anyone who's not even a lawyer sit there and be like, well, he has felonies. So what? Like I said, anyone who knows American history knows that every fucking president has committed crimes. Every fucking American president has committed crimes. The only crime that I care about are war crimes. And as to the record, as far as I can tell, Trump has committed the fewest war crimes of any president in the last 50 years. Well, save, I guess, Jimmy Carter. um, with the exception of like Jimmy Carter, like Trump has committed the least amount of war crimes than any American president has in the last 50 years, with the exception of Jimmy Carter. So that's what I care about. And at the end of the day, I care about my wallet. I don't care about any fucking felonies. What you care, if those like felonies or no felonies, that's not putting money in my wallet. Guess what? The day after he was elected, stocks went up. Stocks went up, and that's anything anyone can easily fact check that right now. Stocks went up the day after he was elected. That's what I care about. No one cares about those felonies. No one cares that he paid off a porn star. No one cares. No one cares. And world leaders have not named Trump the laughing stock. You're literally just talking about a few Western European leaders. The rest of the world has actually rejoiced. The rest of the world has actually fucking rejoiced. The people who don't like him in office, the world leaders who don't like him in office that aren't in Europe, are the ones worried of retaliation. You saw that Hamas called for peace already this week. Hamas is calling for peace. Volodymyr Zelensky got on the call with Trump and Elon Musk this week. Chinese stock has plummeted. Many foreign countries. No one cares, JR. You're talking about many foreign countries are not allowed a felon to enter its country. We're talking about a president, not a fucking regular person. We're not talking. No one cares about the average citizen. The average is if the average citizen doesn't thrive on stocks, whose fault is that? That's like saying the average citizen isn't physically fit. That's their fault. If the average citizen isn't physically fit, that's their fucking fault. Meanwhile, I have IRAs, and many people um have what you call them um whatever retirement funds and shit like that. Retirement funds, pensions. If you as the average person has failed to capitalize on something that's freely available to you, that's your fault. Hold some fucking personal accountability. Stop being a bitch and waiting for someone else to do something for you. Get a 401k through your job. If your job doesn't offer a 401k, get an IRA. You can get a Roth IRA or you can get a standard IRA. If you don't know what it is, look it up. You hold the world's you hold a device with all the world's information on it and don't have the desire to look up shit to know how to better your life. That's your fault. It's like my cousin, like complaining she has type 2 diabetes. She still eats like we did when we were in high school and she doesn't fucking exercise. So that's her fucking fault. Especially when she used to be an all American athlete. When she left high school, she was an all American athlete. So she has no excuse to not be physically fit, especially when she works in law enforcement. That's her problem. That's her fault. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law had diabetes. Guess what? She is she's went into remission with her diabetes because she's taken it upon herself to eat less rice, to exercise 3 days a week with her Zumba class, and take daily walks. That's taking personal accountability. Trump's Hispanic voters don't give a damn about you and Trump's stock market. So what's your point? What the fuck does that have to do with anything I just said? I literally didn't say anything about Trump's Hispanic voters. That sounds racist as fuck. Trump's. I hope one of my Latino friends that come to my channel check you on that shit. You sound like he owns them. They freely chose who they wanted to vote for because this is a democracy. He doesn't own them. If 47% of the Latino population wanted to vote for him, that's their prerogative to do so. They freely chose to do so as citizens. Because you don't like it, no one gives a fuck. You chose not to vote for him. That's your prerogative. You voted for whom you wanted to because you were freely able to do so. And that was your prerogative. They had the ability to vote for whom they wanted to because that was their prerogative, because they are citizens, as you are as well. I'm bragging about the stock market because yes, it went up. That has nothing to do with you talking about Hispanic voters. You jump from one, you have a bad habit every time you disagree with us in this chat room of jumping from one thing to the other. You can't keep your shit together epistemically. Stay on one fucking track. You want to jump from one track to another track to another track because you can't make a salient point. You don't know how to argue rationally because you keep jumping from one thing to the other. Talking about Hispanic votes has nothing to do with me talking about stock market. And it was condescending saying they're his Hispanic voters. They chose whom they wanted. They found they found the Democratic Party to be condescending to them. None of them wanted to be called Latinx. None of them refer to themselves as fucking Latinx. I don't know, except for that one actor. Not one of them I know likes being called Latinx. They don't want to be condescended to, and a lot of them disagree with the immigration policies. Hispanics voted to be deported. How did citizens vote to be deported, dumbass? See, this is the reason, guys. Everyone in the chat room, see, what this is what Malcolm X said. The liberal racism, the liberal fox. So liberals have a nasty habit of doing this to minorities, and I don't care whether Jr. is black or white. We're going to use him as an example anyway, guys. This is liberal racism at its finest. They love minorities as long as you agree with them. But the moment you disagree with a liberal, they are the most racist people in the world. Because now he's saying Hispanics voted to be deported. How can citizens vote to be deported? You cannot. You're assuming that all Hispanic voters are illegal. First of all, if they voted, they're legal citizens, dumbass. You're not Republican. Well, even I don't care what you call yourself. First of all, I'm not boy. So now you're gonna get your fucking ass kicked off my fucking channel. I've put up with your dumbass shit for 4 months now. First of all, you don't have the ability or tools to reason. You jump from one thing to another. You bring up irrelevant shit because you're not smart enough to make a point. You're condescending and you're racist. And you're not Republican because you've been defending fucking Biden and then Harris later on for the past 4 months. You think I don't remember the shit that we've talked about? Here's the thing, guy. I have a good fucking memory. I remember all the dumb shit you've said over the past 4 months. I will cuss if I motherfucking want to, you fucking retard. You're stupid. And you're getting kicked off this platform. You will not be back on my channel because you're fucking retarded. You're condescending. You're fucking irrational. And you're insulting me on my fucking channel. And I will have none of that. So, bye. Have fun sucking Biden's dick, you fucking dumbass. I'm drinking the tears of liberals right here, guys. Mm. So sweet. The tears of liberals like JR. So sweet. And yes, by the way, that is Pikachu behind me with his homeboy Snoopy sitting on a Batman backpack full of a bunch of goodies. I have like collectibles and books inside that backpack. And that is a University of Maryland backpack that has actually a bunch of like old school stuff in it. Like I have a T1, a TI-82 graphing calculator in there, an old University of Maryland folder and notebook, um, a protractor, and all a bunch of old school stuff. What's up, Tactical Vibes? He said, "Nice Pikachu, thank you." I think it was like originally my niece and nephew. They just they got older and just threw their stuff away. I'm like, man, I'm keeping that shit. This one is my other bag. That you guys, some of you who've been to my channel before know this is actually my bug out bag. It's disguised because people were like perplexed, like thinking like because most people think of a bug out bag, with all the camo on it and the little Molly, all the little Molly stripes across it. But for me, I don't want my bug out bag to look like a bug out bag. I don't want you to know that I'm bugging out if I'm bugging out. I want it to be discreet, so I disguised it in a sports backpack. But there's nothing but like um, bushcraft tools and weapons and survival gear in that one. But this one is just like actual like school gear, like 25 years ago. And it not the stuff in there is actually from 25 years ago. Like I bought stuff to look like it was from 25 years ago in there. Um, but yeah, um, so you see how irrational people on the left are. Like this dude has been crying and trying to tell people to vote for Biden and Harris for the past 4 months, and now he's all of a sudden saying he's a Republican. That has the nerve to call me boy. More than likely, I'm older than him, and if he is older than me, he knows that calling another grown man boy is completely out of pocket. If he's older than me, if he is younger than me, then you know, he's still out of pocket. But then that shows that he's like being condescending and racist. Um, I thought he was an old black man from the way he used to talk to me and others in the chat room for the past 4 months. And for even though we disagreed, like I allowed him to rock with his opinions or whatever, as long as he didn't take it too far when he got out of pocket. But today, you know, he thought he could take it there. At the end of the day, I can fight, so no one bothers me on this platform. The only people I'm afraid of are actual like people who can fight, prize fighters. Like if you're like an MMA fighter, a boxer, a kickboxer, a nakmoy, you know, we or any other like person in combat sports, then I have a healthy fear of you. But just some regular degler guy talking trash, nah, I'm sorry. On top of that, you're not gonna do anything to me because you're not coming to Baltimore. You're just not built like that. So, eh. But like I said, guys, the tears of liberals right here. Very hydrating. I might end this soon because I'm not getting too much feedback. But um, if anyone has questions, they can always send it in my comment section and I'll reply. Um, I want to thank again Kelly Moon Center. So that's what's up. I hope to see Kelly again. I'm gonna see if she has a platform herself when I get off. But like, guys, if you like this stuff, you can give me a like and a subscribe or share. Um, if you want to support me in any way, you're gonna send me a super thanks. Um, I also take Cash App or Venmo. Those links will be in the description. There's a buy me a coffee link as well, so you can buy me a coffee. I literally drink coffee every day. So if you want to hook me up like that, I'll take it. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much covers it. I just want to talk about the aftermath of the election because probably tomorrow, if unless something happens in the news world tomorrow, and that's always a 50-50 chance. But as, aside from something happening in the political news tomorrow, I'm probably going to talk about something completely unrelated to politics tomorrow. So that's why I'm giving people a chance right now to get it all off their chest now that they want to talk something political, because tomorrow I'm probably not going to talk politics. But today is fine. Today is cool. If not, I'll end this. Um, but yeah, and I'll be curious people who think I was too hard on JR, or people who think I wasn't hard enough on him. Because mind you, again, this wasn't the first time he's jumped out there. It's literally been like going on 4 months with that guy, back and forth. Like he started off quite respectful back 4 months ago, but he wanted to make everything a political discussion, even on days when I wasn't talking politics. And then he would fuss with other people in the chat room. Fine, whatever. Get your issues off or whatever. Cool. But as we got into the latter stages of the election, he just became more contentious and more like emotional. So I had about enough of that. I really don't have patience for stupid people. I mean, part of the problem I think with being in academia is that it probably makes you less tolerant of mediocre minds. I think that's the nice way to put it. So yeah, the tears of the liberals. Now speaking particularly of liberals and the left, not progressives per se, because Bernie Sanders tore into them. Bernie Sanders Bernie Sanders blamed the Democrats for their loss because he's right. It is their fault that they lost. It is their fucking fault. Trust me. If Bernie had ran, I would have voted for him. They shitted on that man in 2016. They shitted on that man in 2020. And guess what? He still remained a fucking loyal soldier to them, even knowing what they did to him, because it was released in the news how in 2016 they actually actively blocked him from getting the nomination. Like they even went so far to say if he had acquired enough um, votes during the Democratic primary to become the to become the Democratic nominee, they were still going to block him. So no matter what he did, they weren't going to allow him to rock with it, because they're all fearing this outcome that happened like over 40 years ago with this guy named Walter Mondale. I think that was his name, Walter Mondale. Hal Lemon says, "Don't forget about the loss of common sense among those in academia." Oh no, no, no. Yeah, I completely agree with that, bro. What I was saying though, however, is I was saying that um, because I'm used to being around smarter people, I put up less with less smart people, and that doesn't mean that, and that's whether regardless of whether you've gone on to higher education or not. That that's not the factor here. The factor is people who are just dumb. You have people you have very bright people who've never gone on to higher education. Absolutely. So that's not what I'm saying. What I was saying is in higher academia, when I'm used to dealing with certain folks, specifically in philosophy, because in philosophy, you generally do have to be smart because it's really the only major outside of like math and physics where you genuinely have to think. Like those are the only three like college majors I think that really make you think. And it's like it kind of raised my expectations of how I talk with people. Like I treat everyone as if they're rational people, and today proved to me that they are not, as that guy Jr. did earlier. So that's what I mean. But you're absolutely right. There are some fucking numbskulls in academia because there was this condescending guy. If you haven't seen it on Libs of TikTok, go check out the video. This condescending guy walks into a store with his Harris and Waltz hat, right? And he's greeted with by some rude clerk or someone telling him, I think they either told him to remove it or they said something condescending towards his candidate. And he's like, I don't want to talk to these people. I got 3 masters and a PhD. Well, act like it then. If you're that smart, then just don't engage with someone like that. Like, I know that. You know what I mean? Like, if you got 3 masters and a PhD, why don't you show how erudite you are by refusing to get down to that person's level? If they want to put you, if they want to put you in a way that try to denigrate you for your choice, because like here's the thing, since I am I guess a classical liberal, whatever you want to call me, which means like to people on the left nowadays, I'm considered a conservative being a classical liberal, but whatever. But um and when I say classical liberal, I don't mean American liberal, guys. I mean liberal like the European Enlightenment type liberals like John Locke and Adam Smith and stuff like that. Anyway, you know, why would you engage with someone who's going to give you a hard time because of your hat? Same thing MAGA people had to deal with all the time. They got to deal with shit for wearing a MAGA hat. So, tough titties. Like, he could have just rolled with it. Like, one of the things we learned, I remember in my philosophy commencement speech, I didn't get do the commencement speech, the commencement speaker, he was like, one of one of the final things you learn in critical thinking skills is reason with those who can reason. Like he was talking about how this guy, when he was teaching at I think the University of Denver in Colorado, the guy it was a guy in this bar, and it was like he was like it was like a quote unquote redneck type bar, and he was I think they was giving him a hard time or something, like he was making fun of him or whatever. And he could have just ignored it or whatever, or just laughed it off. But instead, he wanted to insult their intelligence, be like, well, that's not even a rational argument. You're committing the fallacy of blah, blah, blah. Like, you're in a fucking bar. No one wants to hear you quote fa- like Latin terms for fallacy, for logical fallacies and stuff like that. And, he got his ass beat. He got it. So the commencement speaker was like, you know, if you're fucking philosophy student, you're graduating from philosophy, you should be smart enough not to get into that sort of dispute with someone that is going to beat your ass. Like, this is the same thing with this guy. You got 3 fucking masters and a PhD, but yet you want to sit there and insult people and basically use your degrees as a way of denigrating others. That's not the move. That's not it. So sorry for that long rant. But what's up, Eric DeGuapo? Been missing you, man. Haven't seen you in a while. What's going on, bro? Um, Hal never says I agree. So higher academia is becoming tolerant. Yeah, and they're coddling students. You're supposed to learn and grow when you're in school. You're supposed to be uncomfortable facing different views. Look, I love diversity, but when you go to school, it's not just about cultural diversity, it's also about intellectual diversity. You need to learn how to. This is the reason why people used to be scared of sending their kids to school. Not because their daughter's going to get black.com. Let me stop. No, it's because they often scared, they often feared that their kids would learn different views from what they were raised. And that's kind of true because, like, most Catholics who go off to college lose their faith, even if they go to a Catholic based university. Like, you can go to, because there is one in Washington, D.C., by the way, guys. There's the, if you haven't heard, the Catholic University of America. Like, you can go off to a Catholic university as a Catholic, and more than likely you will still lose your faith. So this is what happens when you come up with different, when you come to a place that shit, when you're and you experience intellectual diversity, you may change your views on things. That's perfectly acceptable. But nowadays, people want to be coddled and have safe spaces and trigger warnings in their lectures because they don't want their views to be challenged. You're not there to have your views coddled. You're there to have your views challenged. That is part and parcel of going on to higher education. If you don't want that, go to a trade school. Helen says I wouldn't vote for a socialist, but I'm not going to be disrespectful to those who feel otherwise. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly my point. I don't look, if I'm working in an establishment, dude, I don't care what you wear on your hat. As long as your hat doesn't say "fuck him on," I hope he croaks. That's my name, I'm on my real name. Like, as long as you don't have a hat that says "fuck him on," I hope he croaks. Like, I'm fine. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and more than likely, even if you did have that hat on, as long as you're still nice to me, yeah. But like I said, they people like him will be so quick to poke fun at someone wearing a MAGA hat and then get triggered the exact same way that they talk about MAGA people when they're wearing their hat when he came in with that fucking Harris Waltz hat. And then he wanted to play up his degrees like that makes him a better person than, or not not just that it makes him a better person, but by default because he has more degrees or degrees period than the other, compared to the other person, that automatically assumes that his political views are correct, and that could be so far from the truth. So Eric says I'm considered a conservative because I'm white and a Christian. I have no political affiliation and don't vote, but nuance doesn't matter to some people. It really doesn't, bro. Like I said, I wish you guys were here when I was having that discussion with JR. I think you probably remember the guy JR because he's been on my platform for like several months, but I banned him today because like I didn't care that he was disagreeing with me, but now he wanted to be like condescending. He was calling me boy, and then he was then he was insulting Latino voters. He was like, oh, he said those are Trump's Hispanic voters and stuff like that. I'm like, dude, just because they can freely choose whom they want to vote for. I was like, you're not going to insult these people saying they're his vote. Like, it got worse. He said they voted to get deported. I'm like, you don't even make any sense. Eric, he literally said this. Like, you can scroll up if if you don't believe he. Uh, he literally said like these Hispanic voters voted to get deported. I was like, first of all, dude, if they voted, they can't get deported because they're legal citizens. I said, and two, you're the one being racist because now you're basically saying that all Hispanics are illegal immigrants. I said, so who's being a racist? I said, you literally don't make any sense. And then he tried to he tried to deflect by saying I'm a Republican. I was like, no, you're not. I was like, dude, I was like, you act like I don't remember you being on here for the past 4 months, like defending Democrats. it wasn't just defending Harris because he was defending Biden before Biden dropped out of the race. Like he was literally a Democrat. Then all of a sudden he's a Republican. Like he was like, dude, I was like, one thing you're not gonna do is insult my intelligence. I said, one thing I know is I have good memory, so I remember our chats back and forth for the past 4 months. And the reason I remember is because no matter what my topic was, he will always come on and start talking about politics, no matter what my given topic that night was. So it's like, dude, you're not like you're not fooling anyone. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna ban you because you're being stupid. And it, like what he said just didn't make sense. And I was like, you keep jumping from one thing to the other. Besides that, we weren't even talking about Latino voters. I was literally talking about the effects of what the election has been these past few days. And one of the things I said was the day after the election, stocks went up. He was like, so what does that matter? I'm like, it matters for a lot of people. That means people who have IRAs, who have 401ks, who have pensions, they're seeing more money automatically. Like, yes, that matters. So, we went back and forth before. Like I said, he started insulting me, and that earned him a ticket exit stage right. Eric has been busy with the school year. He says starting to slow down a bit because Thanksgiving and Christmas is around the corner. They need to stop it for Halloween too. I'm joking. That'd be good though, right? Hal Lover says, I had a lifelong friend call me a Hitler loyalist on election night. That's hateful and intolerant. So we are done. I, yeah, that's out of pocket. I agree, Hal Lover. And this is the thing too. I don't know if you saw my videos, but literally like early this week, no, was it? Yeah, early the beginning of this week, I literally did like a YouTube short saying, guys, don't crash out with your family and friends over this election. Because here's the thing, all these elites, all these politicians, and the pundits who defend them, all these folks may be at loggerheads in the media, but these people are all part of an oligarchy, whether they're Republican or Democrat. All these people, like, they all went to the same elite universities. They live in the same communities, especially in the Washington Beltway. Um, they all send their kids to the same private schools, and they all um, take part in the same like exclusive events and organizations. And more than half the time, they all are receiving funding from the same donors, but they play out this enmity amongst each other on camera, and people believe it, so they're literally fighting it out with families and friends and ending relationships. Meanwhile, these people go on and still talk, like, still are in the same organizations and events with each other. Like, Trump literally said today that if the DNC wanted, he would pay off the debts from the campaign. So it, for like, so the thing what I did, however, so like I expressed my views without actually saying them. So I just kind of posted stuff on my social media without actually saying that without actually saying whom I voted for. But I made it kind of clear to anyone who's not dumb that clearly I supported Trump and was happy with his winning. But I never said it um, online, and I never said it in real life, and I never got into any debates with anyone, family or friends about it. But sometimes even not talking about it will make people assume that you're a Trump supporter, which is funny. Some people just didn't vote at all, or they voted for a third party candidate. They voted for like the libertarian candidate, or they voted for Cornel West, or they voted for Jill Stein. But yeah, for someone to call you a Hitler loyalist is just out of pocket. I completely agree. And here's the thing: I said this earlier on in the stream, and I've said this in previous videos too. This is a Democratic tactic that's been going on since George W. Bush. Like literally since 1999, they have tried to fearmonger and say that the Republican candidates, well, actually, this goes before 1999. Like this goes all the way back to the 80s, where Democrats have fearmongered amongst liberals and black people, claiming that Republicans are not only evil, but they want to reverse back time to make women just property and black people just slaves. Like they've echoed this rhetoric for the past 40 plus years, but is since at least 99 2000 that they've ratcheted up, where they've said basically that every Republican candidate was a fucking Nazi or Hitler supporter or whatever. The only person they didn't do that with was John McCain, because there is like genuine love for that man on both sides of the aisle. But every other candidate, like people like Bush now on the left because they see him hugging Michelle Obama, Big Michael, and getting along with Barack Obama. But people forget how hated he was on the left. Like Bush was the Trump of the 2000s, and that's literally not an exaggeration. The hatred and vitriol they have for that man was equal to what they have for Trump right now. Like they literally tried to tie his grandfather into being a Nazi. Like they literally, you guys don't believe me. Like I said, you can Google this stuff and look it up for yourself. They literally tried to say that George W. Bush's grandfather was like a Nazi. And then when Mitt Romney ran against Obama, they tried to claim that he was this Mormon fascist. Like I said, the only one they didn't do that with was John McCain. But with both Bush and Romney, they were both called fascists. And like I said, they literally tried to claim that Bush's grandfather was a Nazi. And of course, they did that with Arnold Schwarzenegger because he's from Austria and his father actually served in the Austrian army during World War II. And I think now Arnold himself did admit this, that his father did have ties to the Nazis back then. But as he said, it's not like his father had a fucking choice. So that's different. He wasn't American. Like they were in Austria at the time when it was occupied by the Nazis. But to sit here and call Americans uh, Nazi supporters just because they have conservative beliefs is that is hateful and it's misleading and it's false. It has been at least a dozen occasions where Trump has denounced white supremacists, fascists, and Nazis. There's been at least a dozen times on record that he has denounced them, including the infamous Charlottesville riots. When everyone remembers him saying there was good people on both sides, but they forget the rest of the speech where he said, he was talking about like, you know, when he was talking about good people on both sides, he was saying like the people on the right just wanted to keep those statues up because it's a part of American history. But he said, I'm not talking about those neo Nazis and white supremacists. He said, they are not good people. People forget that he said that part. They only remember the part where he said there's good people on both sides. However, said, I spent 21 years in the military. I ain't coddling no one. Man, I agree. I completely agree. I agree. Eric says, taking my students to Cedar Sinai next week for a healthcare immersion lab at their facility. It's amazing training for them. Oh man, that's cool. That's what's up. Um, Helen says degrees don't mean crap, but what you do with them and how you treat people does. No, well, I won't say that. Degrees do mean a lot, But what I'm saying is he's making his educate the guy. Like I said, check out the video on libs of TikTok if you haven't already seen it. It's not the degrees don't mean crap. It's that he's making his education look bad by acting that way because it's like he's making himself look less like he's basically saying, well, the so what he's implying is I'm a professional and I'm erudite, so basically my opinion is correct just by virtue of the fact that I have these degrees and you don't. And that lo- that makes his that actually lowers the in most people's eyes that would actually lower his, the prestige of his education by doing something like that. I never go into any argument unless it is the actual content of that argument about my degrees. I don't have to point my degrees out to people in any sort of argument unless the argument is is actually about my education itself. Unless the argument is actually about my education itself, I have no need to say, well, I have this and that degree, so therefore my argument is correct. Like that's such a patent fallacy to make that he should know better. Again, since he holds 3 degrees and a PhD, because we don't know what those masters are in. One could be in TV, other could be in anime, the other one could be in porn, and the PhD is in I won't go there, but you get what I'm saying. Like he's basically using the prestige of his degrees to say that his views on politics is correct with it, which if anything, it actually lowers the prestige of his education by using those to argue his points. So However, says they need an echo chamber. Oh no, they have an echo chamber. That's the problem, bro. Like that's all they've been hearing is their echo chamber. That's why they're so clueless on why Trump won. Like after he won in 2016, it should have it should have dawned on them that there's something askew with their beliefs and how it tracks or doesn't track reality. But it didn't do that for them. Like this is what I was telling my friend a few days ago. I said this election has is just I say election is just election 2016 part two, Electric Boogaloo. It's like it's the same thing happened. He beats a woman, they claim whom they just assume is gonna naturally just obliterate him. And it's like it doesn't dawn on them like that most of middle of America is fed up. That one of the reasons they didn't realize that middle America is so fed up is because a lot of people haven't voiced their until the election. A lot of people, if you weren't listening to the manosphere online, most 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 people didn't realize how fed up people are. Like unless you listen to red pill content or manosphere, people didn't realize. Like people think it's just like the only thing they know is, oh, some people listen to Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan is very popular, and he's not the only one. Or they just laugh off anyone who listens to Anderson Tate or Jordan Peterson. You know, and it's like they don't realize how many people listen to all these folks in the manosphere and in the political conservative spaces because these people don't talk about it because they were people have been in fear of their livelihoods for the past 10 years or so because of cancel culture and these political witch hunts and like you had cancel culture, you've had people losing jobs, losing their wives, being ostracized on social media. You had the Me Too movement. You had this things like the slut walk. um, Remember the slut walk, guys? um, you, you had women just, saying they, they weren't gonna fuck guys if they held certain beliefs or, did whatever, whatever. Like, so for the most part, a lot of people held back what they really thought and felt. But, during election time, people can really voice their views because of the anonymity of voting. And we learn lessons. Again, we learned similar lessons to what we learned in 2016. For one, 51% of white women voted for Trump. So all these women trying to blame men. Yeah. So fifth, what was it? I believe it was like 59% of white men voted for Trump. No, 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 no. It had to been higher. I think it was sorry, I think 69, like 63, 69% of white men voted for Trump or whatever. Um, but like over 51% of white women voted for Trump. So that meant the majority of white women voted for Trump. Then they talk about black people because they all try to say black men. Like, first of all, black men didn't get Trump elected, but I'll gladly claim it because I did vote for him and I'm happy. uh, but we don't actually have the numbers to sway an election because of the American of the American electorate voters. Black men only made up 4% of that, and 74% of black men still voted for Harris, who's not even black. She's an Indian woman, but 74% of them still voted for her, whereas only like about 23% of black men voted for Trump, which is a larger number than it has been in the past. It was so it doubled the amount that voted for him in 2016. So it's double the amount. Even more black women voted for him this time around. I think it was about 12% of them, which is a much higher amount than it was in 2016 as well, and in 2020. And Latino men voted for him, I think about 47%. So that's why I was getting into JR's ass when no Diddy about about him talking about these Trump's Hispanic voters. I was like, dude, I was like, they voted for him because that was within their interest to do so. Okay. Here's another group that people don't realize voted for Trump in droves, who you wouldn't expect. Native Americans. Native Americans overwhelmingly voted for Trump over, I think it was like, I don't remember the exact percentage. It was about 60 something percent of Native Americans voted for Trump. Over 60%, guys. That's a lot of natives to vote for Trump. So you're looking at every, so when you break down on demographics, every group moved towards Trump. Every group by both gender and race. Every group had higher numbers voting for him than they voted for him in 2020 and in 2016. Every group. So clearly, the Democrats do have an echo chamber, however. They need to get out of the echo chamber if they ever want to succeed. They need to start listening to people outside of the Washington Beltway, outside of academia, and and they need to stop. They need to read stuff aside from the New York Times and the Washington Post or the New Yorker or the Atlantic. Like Eric says, I hate when grown adults try to talk down to other adults like they are children. Agreed. Agreed. Oh, by the way, guys, I'm drinking the tears of liberals right here. You see, I'm almost done. This it was a lot. It was a lot. That was a lot of tears of liberals to fill this bottle. I'm almost done. Um, Howland says, "Who cares what party you are anyway?" Exactly. That's why I'm an independent. I've been an independent since 2008, man. Because I don't need a party affiliation. to vote my interests. I mean, but if anyone, but I don't knock anyone for their party affiliation. Just for me, I don't want to be affiliated with any political party. Agatha says, hello, sir, good night. What's up, beautiful Agatha? It's Agatha all along. Eric says, I don't remember JR, but he sounds like someone whose brain is rotted by TikTok. You don't remember him, but let's see, because we haven't talked that much since I had. Remember, I wasn't here. I was at my grandmother's house for 3 months, right? That's sort of like when you became busy with school and stuff. But ever since like I was there, like I had more chats, like live streams, and he was in them. But I think it started since I had been here before I left to my grandmother's house. Watch while I was with her, and like I said, it started off amicable at first, but I guess as things have plodded along with the election and then the political and news and politics, he wanted to make everything about politics. And from my streams that like not all my streams are about politics, but he wanted to talk about politics in every single stream. Or even when I would have like, ask me anything nights, what would he talk about on Ask Me Anything? Politics. He would keep asking who you voting for. He wanted to make it an argument. I was like, dude, I don't want to like on Ask Me Anything. I'm not trying to argue with people. I'm just trying to have like good discussion. However, says civil conversation is what bridges the gaps of misunderstanding. Without it, we are screwed. So exactly. So there is a philosopher named Peter Boghossian. He actually has a YouTube channel as well, but he's literally written a book on how to discuss things civilly on really like uh, contentious topics. He's literally wrote a book on how you can talk to people on very difficult topics, right? So I would recommend that to people. I don't remember the exact title of the book, but it's written by Peter Boghossian. He's a he's an actual like philosophy professor or former philosophy professor. He actually said he had to leave academia because he felt like academia is destroying people's like ability to reason well. Now I can see why he says that, but you got to start from somewhere. You gotta use the ladder before you throw it away, right? So, which is um actually acknowledging this sort of um not proverb, but this idea from one of my favorite philosophers, Wittgenstein. He was saying, um, the curative philosophy is to be done with it, but before then, you have to learn it to be able to dispense with it. He made the analogy to a ladder where, you have to climb up to ladder to get beyond it and toss it aside. So you still got to use academia to get to that point where you can throw it away. um, but yeah, but again, to my point, like I said, if people are interested, like I said, Peter Boghossian wrote a good book on that where he talks about how to have how to have civil conversations about very difficult topics. And he literally does it on his YouTube channel. Like he goes up to random people and he discusses like really heated stuff in a way that doesn't get under people's feathers. Whereas you have some influencers cannot do that. They cannot talk about really difficult topics without pissing people off. Now, for my part, I'm not here to coddle anyone, so that's not my point. I could do that if I wanted to. So, like, so for instance, if I invite someone to my channel and I have them on as a guest, then things won't get heated like that unless they decide to do that because we can hold like a conversation on something on which we completely disagree and I'll be chill about it. But it it's a it is a lost skill. A lot of people have lost some of those social skills to have, you know, real civil disputes, because this happens, and this is something people in academia should be really good at, but unfortunately a lot of them aren't anymore because of this whole thing with trigger warnings on safe spaces and like constant like student protests and dumb shit like that. But this is something you should be able to do, because I've seen professors have these this symposia, and they'll completely disagree with the guest speakers or speakers on different topics, but they all get along at the end of the day. Like they'll be at each other's necks, like not in a violent way or like they're cursing each other out, but like they'll be like adamantly disagreeing with the speaker and be completely cool with them. A lot of people don't know how to do that. Eric was replying to Hound He says, I agree 100%. Hound said, yeah, I saw that video. I liked it, and you're right. Thanks. He says the elites see themselves as self-anointed royalty, but they aren't, and we need to keep showing them that. That's Thomas Sowell's point too. I don't know if you're familiar with Thomas Sowell. I think we talked about that before though, like several months ago. But Thomas Sowell has made that point. Like he calls them, he calls them the anointed, because that's how they 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 feel about themselves. So Thomas Sowell has said that many he said that like decades ago when he said these people, when he refers to left leaning academics and intellectuals, that he calls them the anointed. Because that's because they, for the very point that you're bringing up, that the elites see themselves as self anointed royalty. That's why Thomas Sowell calls them the anointed. Helen says, I hope he doesn't do that. They need consequences. Yeah. Eric says, exactly. They beef on screen, shaking hands backstage, and watch as we fight each other while lining their pockets with our money. Exactly. And that's why I told people, early on, I said, don't, I was like, man, don't crash out over these people. Don't do that. Because they don't, at the end of the day, they form an oligarchy, whether they disagree with whether they agree with each other or not. They're still helping each other out at the end of the day, left and right, Democrat and Republican, whatever. Alan says, uh, Eric, he said, men to that. Eric says, that is why I refuse to hate anyone, especially along political lines. I'm not going to be a pawn for them. Yeah, I can't. And I was telling one of my friends that, it's like, I'm not going to hate someone because of their politics. I'm only going to hate them how they treat me or people I care about. But to sit there and just hate a whole group of people for because they're left, because they're Republican, because they're Democrat, because they're Libertarian, or socialist, whatever. I don't care. I just care how they behave, pretty much. He said don't get me started on globalist Bush family. Yeah. And like I said, people forget how hated they were in the 2000s. Helen says, I was on the right then and couldn't stand Bush's because they're globalists. Mitt Romney is probably going to become a Democrat. He's embroiled in whatever Biden is trying to hide in Ukraine. Um, Hal Never says, I laughed at all of that good. He said, good shave your head and deny your partner. He said, whatever, dude. He said, Trump or Layla says, Trump or Kamala. Layla at this point I think it's too late for that. Everyone has already decided. Helen says they aren't going to get anywhere by disparaging all of us, calling us garbage was a real problem. Yeah, like And they tried to change, so they tried to reinterpret what Biden meant, but it was clear because it was condescending, and it wasn't the first time they did that. It was, again, it was just like Hillary back in 2016 calling everyone who supported Trump a basket of deplorables. Remember that basket of deplorables? Helen says they won't get out of the echo chamber. They would rather cancel folks they don't agree with. They would try, but again, like I said, Trump announced, it was either today or yesterday, that he's going full throttle at bureaucrats in the government, social media platforms, um, and others who want to stymie freedom of speech. So the echo chamber, whether it remains intact or not, we'll see. But that whole cancellation stuff is it's going to lose some of its steam, and he's going to go after like these these academic institutions, saying they're going to lose federal funding. Agatha says, "I'm in the Cayman Islands. Had to get away for a little." That's pretty good. You could just get away. You could just go off to the Cayman Islands like that. And you didn't invite me. I remember you were kind of depressed because of the election, so I know how you voted. Again, that's fine. um, and I know people were disappointed on the left because I remember how I felt back in 2016 when I voted for Hillary. So people think I'm like this hardcore Trumper. Like, dude, I voted for Hillary and I voted for Biden in 2020. So I get it. Like, I just don't think the same anymore. Helen says, I love Thomas. So, okay. I guess I'm feeling broken. I told you, I, I told you if you need, you can reach out to me off of YouTube. I told you just message me. You can either message me on Instagram at Amon Just A Contrarian, or on my Facebook Amon Just A Contrarian. Again, you know, I'm not gonna reveal your identity. It will be discreet. Like, there's several people that I talk to on here, on other platforms, where they know my identity and I know theirs, and we keep it discreet. Like, um, Miss Needle and I are actually friends, offline. So, like I said, if if you feel in a certain way, you can reach out to me anytime. You can, like I said, you can do it through email, or you can do it on my Instagram, because my Instagram is linked to this YouTube channel's. It's Amon at Just A Contrarian, AHMAND, just GUST a Contrarian, CONTRARA. I mean RIAN. And I got a Facebook, also Amon Just A Contrarian, whichever one you want to reach me on. Like I said, anything we talk about there is there. Okay. She said, okay, we'll link up. Cool. Yeah, anytime. And and by the way, that goes for other anyone else as well. Like, I know, like, some people try to reach me, but whenever I might record or go live, they don't they're not available, but they want to, like, ask me questions. So, guys, you can do that through email. You can reach me through Facebook or Instagram. You know, I don't mind, talking with you guys. Helen says, can you pinpoint what changed your mind this time or summarize it? I'm just curious. Oh yeah, I definitely can. I've talked about it several times before, but you may not have been on my live stream. So it was a couple of things. It was gradual. Um, so one is okay. I consider myself like a pretty staunch progressive hound lover, but over the past like 11 years, it seemed like progressivism wasn't about the very things that I came into progressivism for in the first place, which is like, you know, personal freedom, freedom of speech, reason, these sorts of things. Like, as cancellation culture became a big thing, um, it, and then the witch hunts through like the Me Too and stuff like that. It's like they were using authoritarian tactics to get people to adhere to their views, and that was very undemocratic to me because another virtue of supposedly progressives was democracy, but they've literally, so they've literally said that they don't think free speech, that they don't think hate speech about like LGBTQ or women should be protected. I'm like, wait, what? so, so that was the first thing was I abandoned progressivism. Um, Second thing is, like I said, with all the cancellation culture and stuff like that, um, it felt like people's cognitive liberty was at odds with with these with these left leaning agendas. Three was how they fucked over Bernie Sanders twice in 2016 and 2020. He had the superior campaign back in 2016. And no matter what he did, the DNC said they were not going to allow that man to be the nominee. Like the emails came out with them literally talking about how they were going to fuck that man over if he got to enough votes to capture the nomination. Like they were still going to prevent him from doing so. And in 2020, when he was at full steam, all the other candidates dropped out just to support Biden, just to make sure that Bernie didn't win. And then that little, ugh, I don't want to say what I want to call him, this black representative from South Carolina through his support to Biden to get all black to get black people to support him, and which cool. That's if he, like there's nothing wrong with that, but this guy, this same black guy does not look out for the needs of black people. Um, I forgot this guy name. It's Reverend something or other. And like I said, so in 2020, like all the candidates basically jumped out of the race just to support Biden, just to make sure Bernie didn't win. Cool. At least it wasn't as shady as what they did in 2016. But Bernie was the superior candidate. When they looked at the polling, Bernie would have beaten Trump back in 2016. Even in 2020, he, I mean, Biden still won, but barely. He barely won. Um, what else was it? It was like so much stuff they was throwing in people's face, like supporting illegal immigrants over Americans, pretending there's not a border crisis, the fact that the president was in an obvious cognitive decline and they were lying and hiding it. Um, the fact that Trump actually did stuff for black people while he was in office, which Biden didn't do and Obama didn't. We had a so-called black president. He's not really black, but whatever. In office for 8 years, he literally did nothing for black people. Literally nothing. Only thing he could say he did was he did stuff that bettered the country overall, which indirectly helped black people. But that's not the same thing. That's like playing word games. He literally did nothing for black people. Trump did the First Step Act, which helped people coming out of prison readjust to life so they could work and such and so forth. And this this like affected a lot of black men because a lot of black men were locked up. Also, He gave permanent funding to the historically black colleges and universities. That was another thing. Also, he allotted federal funding to a lot of inner city communities across the country, including here in Baltimore. Something I didn't know about. Um, what else? Then there was other stuff that I learned, bro. So I found out like Trump back in the '80s, he supported Jesse Jackson's run for president. Not only did he support Jesse Jackson in his run for office, he he gave him like a generous donation to his campaign as well. And he, like I said, he came out publicly in support of Jesse Jackson's run for office for president back in the '80s. A lot of people don't remember that stuff because they have these huge blinders on to say everything Trump does must be wrong and racist. But he literally supported Jesse Jackson in his run. And by the way, Jesse Jackson was the first presidential candidate that I saw run for office when I was a little kid. I was like, I could have been no older than 5 or 6 at the time, and I was there with my mom at this Jesse Jackson uh, political rally here in Baltimore, and this white guy literally picked me up and sat me on his shoulder so I could see Jesse Jackson um, talking at the podium. I still remember that, even though this was like literally like 40 like this was like literally 42 years ago or 41 years ago. I still remember that this white man picking me up and put me on his shoulder so I could see Jesse Jackson. And like I said, Trump supported Jesse Jackson in his run for presidency and gave money to his campaign. Also, something that I didn't know either, back in 1990, when Nelson Mandela was released from prison, Donald Trump personally chartered a private plane to bring Nelson Mandela to the United States when he was released from prison in 1990. Um, Also, I remember back in 2016 when he first ran, even though I was against him, I remember he said something even then that stood out, even when disliked him at the time because I was brainwashed. He said to black people, he's like, he said, he said, why don't you guys vote for me? He said, what do you have to lose? He said, why not give it a try? And I was like, that's pretty genuine. He was like, why not vote for me? What do you have to lose? Like, that was a pretty heartfelt, like pretty heartfelt reaching out. Meanwhile, what did Biden say back in 2016? Back in 2020? If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. So, and the, and what else was it? Like I said, the fact that I felt like they were doing more for illegal immigrants than they were doing for black people who've been in this country for like literally the beginning of this nation, like putting these illegal immigrants in black communities, giving them free housing. Remember, Governor Gavin Newsom had to strike down a bill, had to veto a bill in California where they were going to give illegal immigrants like 20%, I think like 20% off in buying homes there. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? They were going to give illegal immigrants like the ability to buy houses cheaper than actual Californians people. Like, that's crazy. But Gavin Newsom vetoed the bill. And I think the only reason he vetoed it was because it made national news and it embarrassed him. Um, but yeah, like when I found out like there was like immigrants getting like $10,000 in food and cash benefits on their EBT cards, I'm like, yo, that's ridiculous. Like I said, the day after the election, Mayor Eric Adams of New York City said he would no longer give uh, money vouchers to illegal immigrants. So for people saying that that was a rumor, that wasn't, that they weren't really doing that they weren't really giving all these cash and food benefits to immigrants, it was real because it meant he's going to stop doing it. So, it was a lot of stuff like that, like that hound lover that made me come to the side of Trump. Just a lot of stuff like the border crisis, the illegal immigration, the the how they like how they were treating these people better than actual Americans and veterans. Like I said, the fact that he literally has shown like genuine uh, care of black voters. He's never demeaned them, unlike the Democrats who've been calling black men ridiculous and and all sorts of like bad. Like they had Obama come in and actually chastise black men and say they were all sexist if they don't vote for Kamala. Like this sort of shit. That that wasn't the right message to send to people right before they vote. So uh Howard says, I think it's awesome that you grew and learned. He's I pray others do too. A lot of us did, man. A lot of it. Like I said, you can literally see it through the numbers. Like twice the amount of black men, well, not just black men, but black people in general, like double the amount voted for him this year than voted for him in 2016 and in 2020. So, like I said, it went. It was like I think 12% like 2016 of black men voted for him, and it was almost 24% who voted for him this time. So double the amount. Helen says the left has turned against moderate values. Yeah, they're pushing far left values, and they know that they can't win people with those through those beliefs alone, just on their own conviction. So they have to use authoritarian tactics to push people over into that by using cancel culture, doing these political witch hunts, by doing socially ostracizing them on social media, um, uh, being intolerant of them on academic institutions. So, Helen says everything they called Trump they were doing, and that bothered me. Yeah, and they didn't even see the irony in that. They still don't. They still don't see the irony. They're calling him a fascist, but they're the ones doing the authoritarian things. Not to mention he's had two assassination attempts. Actually, third really is three or four now because they recently uncovered an attempt by Iranian plotters to assassinate him and this Iranian woman who's a speaks out on the women rights for for women living in Iran. There was an attempt to kill both her and Trump that has been thwarted by national security, and it was a Chinese national that was plotting something as well. And then when you hear about this stuff, the people on the left was like, "Dag, they should have got him." This is their response. "Dag, they should have got him." Helen says they eat their own salads. If they didn't, they would already have leaders to put forward that weren't word salad, kamalamala, ding dong. Right. That's another issue. I've That's funny. Everything you're talking about, I've made like little YouTube shorts about it. I said that was another thing. I said the day before the election, I said I predict that the election would be close, but that he would probably win because the left always cannibalizes themselves. Like they the right doesn't when you're on the right, um, you don't have to. Everyone on the right doesn't agree, and that's fine because at the end of the day, they'll come together like Voltron to to hold on to power. But the people on the left, they subject each other to a purity test. So they would rather lose power than put someone in place that doesn't hold their beliefs. And that's what they did with Bernie Sanders. Like they like back in 2016 and in 2020, they said they were literally have rather have Trump win than allow Bernie Sanders to to become the president. This is what they said. So this is why the left will continue to lose. Like I said, they subject each other to a purity test and will cannibalize their own, whereas will the right will be more than willing to put up with someone that doesn't hold all their beliefs just so they could keep hold on to power. Like a lot of Republicans don't like Trump for many reasons, but they were still supporting him because they want the Republicans to hold on to power, and because of that, they've won decisively. They not only had put Trump back into office, but they've won the majority seats in both the House of Representatives and in the Senate, which means we will have a full Republican led government this January because Republicans don't eat their own as much as they disagree. Because a lot of people on the left don't realize how much disagreement there is on the right. They think they're all the same. They don't know there's a disagreement amongst regular conservatives and neoconservatives and libertarians and the and the and the right winged um the right wing extremists. Like these are all different camps of people, but they all come to and oh and the conservative and the Republican moderates. Like all these people don't get along at all, but they will form together like Voltron to hold on to power. And that's something the left doesn't know how to do. Fortunately for us. Helen says, I can't stand Obama. Agreed. I hate that dude. Um, and I used to love the guy back in 2008, 2007, but that's before we saw his true colors. But that's a story for another day. Helen says Obama and the Clintons were enough for me to never look at the Democrat Party again. He said I was active during Hillary's reign of terror in Benghazi and 9/11. I know stuff I wish I didn't. Oh, I'm sure. Like, if you were still active duty at the time, I'm pretty sure you're privy to information that you can't divulge here. That's fine. Like my friend and I, we were talking. He was saying he wondered what Trump's stance is going to be on Ukraine and stuff. And I was talking about some stuff that I've heard through the media. He was like, well, the stuff that he's privy to working in certain sectors of the government. I can't say which, but in the certain sectors of government he works in, related to defense, he knows certain things as well. So he was like, he's not gonna really disagree with me on a lot of stuff because he knows he's more in a more privileged position to know things that I don't, which is fair. That's completely fair. Um, so yeah, I can see why someone who's in the know be might disagree with a lot of stuff that other people don't know about when it comes to to our political leaders and their decisions. I get it. Um, Hello says all the money spent on illegals proved to me that no American should be homeless, and there's no reason those collecting Social Security shouldn't be getting at least 2,000 a month. Exactly. If we can cobble together $200 billion to a country that's losing a fucking war, because they'll the media will have you believe it's a stalemate. No, it's not. They're fucking losing. They're fucking losing. Um, and right now, because after Trump was announced as the winner, now the Biden administration is trying to scramble to push out $6 billion again to Ukraine before they have to leave office. That's ridiculous. So you can just cobble together $6 billion just to throw to them before you leave because you're afraid that the incoming administration isn't going to just indiscriminately give them money. That's wild. That, that's wild. And that's like on top of the billions and billions they've already given to them. Like I support the billions given to Israel and to Taiwan, but to Ukraine, no. And I've said for a long time why I feel that way. So I won't go into that today. But the billions and billions of dollars, yeah, that definitely could have took care of Americans here. You're absolutely right, Hound Lover. He says Trump is authentic and not a politician is refreshing to me. That's another thing. People liked him and they liked Bernie because they weren't establishment type politicians. They were anti-establishment politicians. That's why they were so loathed by both parties. Bernie was able to out campaign Hillary through just grassroots campaigning. He's accepted no corporate PAC money, and he was out campaigning Hillary and just grassroots campaigning. I think both of those guys were authentic, and they would have been a honestly, it would have been a great election back in 2016 to have seen them go against each other, or in 2020 to see them go against each other. And honestly, I think it would have been more respect amongst them as well. At least I suspect. I mean, it still would have probably got dirty, but you know what I mean. However, says I'm not voting for anyone based on gender or color ever. I agree, and like I said, I was thoroughly brainwashed back in 2008, 2012. So, however, says I think Obama put Biden up to all of the nonsense with the open border. Mm, I don't think so because if you remember, Obama was arresting people back and forth. Like, remember they called him the deporter in chief. Like, people talked all this shit about Trump when he was in office. Obama was way worse. Like, they were calling him. I know you remember this now, probably, but they used to call him the deporter in chief. And don't. But people forgave that because he's a liberal Democrat. He's a black guy, not really black, but whatever. He's a black liberal Democrat. He's part of the establishment, and he formed the DACA, program. Remember that? I think Trump got rid of DACA when he came into office, but people were so pleased with his DACA program they forgot how like all the stuff that was going on under his watch on the border with Obama. Like he they like I said, they called him the deporter in chief, and all those little um, migration camps or prisons they've been calling them. That didn't start under Trump. That started under Obama. Like all those little camps or migration prisons, whatever you want to call them, they were there under the Obama administration. That didn't start with Trump, but they wanted to blame that on Trump, even though, like I said, Obama was being called the deporter in chief. Helen says teaching our children to be racist activists also an issue for me. Because I don't think it was Iran. They lying CIA and the FBI behind all of it. Mm, that might be a little too conspiratorial to me. I'll just say they did arrest three. I think it was 3 men or 4 men yesterday on the like I said on the charges of being Iranian plotters because they were literally backed by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. And again, he wasn't their only target. The other target was this Iranian um, uh, advocate for women's rights who fled Iran. Masay, I think her name is Masay Anajad or something like that. Masi, I don't know how to pronounce her name. Hollis says, why don't you run? You mean for office? I don't think I'm cut out. If that's what you mean. I almost did run for like city council in College Park 20 years ago, but that didn't work out because it was like at the last minute to run, and I had to put in my for my nomination. To do that, I had to get enough valid signatures to become a nominee, and like this was a week before the city council elections were going ahead, and the only reason I knew about it was because my campus newspaper at the time was telling people anyone over 21 can run for city council office in College Park. So I was like, shit, I'll do it. Um, and I got enough signatures, but they weren't all valid signatures for my district. So when the guy told me that, I was like, all right, I'm gonna go back out to get enough valid signatures. But there was literally a hurricane that weekend, and by that Monday, I think, or Tuesday was the deadline. So I was that was the end of my of my presumable political career. Now I have a friend who's currently working in the federal government who plans on retiring in 4 or 5 years. He told me when that happens that he would probably like to bring me into his campaign. I'll do I if I'm still in the country at the time, I would do that because I don't have to run myself. He just wants to bring me on in an advisory role. So I'd be more than happy to do that. But I can't see myself like running for office. Um, Hollow says they lose unless they cheat. He said nasty Nancy Pelosi, Hillary C, and Obama need to be leading the Democrats. He said do not need to be leading the Democrats any longer. They are pushing candidates to do things they didn't have the balls to do. Yeah, they this they're very they're the epitome of corporate Democrats. I'll say that. Howlever says, yes, you are correct. Things I wish I didn't know. He said, no more money laundering in Ukraine. Right. And then the other thing is like the Defense Department has never passed an audit. Ever since they've started giving audits to the Defense Department, they've never passed they've never passed a audit. Like that's troubling. What's up, J.A.C? Haven't seen you in a long time. He says, evening, long time. Hope all is well. Yep, definitely. However, says Johnson just released the entirety of the J6 vids. So the January 6th protest, all of that was already available on Capitol Hill in DC. Like, I realize a lot of people don't live in the DMV area, so it wouldn't be easy for them to just come to Washington D.C. to check that out. But for the past year and a half, they have made all the footage from the January 6th protests available uh, on Capitol Hill. Like you could come up there and watch that stuff. They had all the footage, and when they've shown the footage, you realize there was no damn insurrection. Like people, there were some protests and there were some riots. Those people who broke into the halls of Congress, those were rioters, but it wasn't an insurrection. That insurrection means you're calling people. This is another way liberals and people on the left misuse words. Insurrection would be definitive of a leader uses who uses the military to usurp the government, or a bunch of people, you know, coming in with weapons to usurp the government. The basically the thing that the thing that all these little feminists have their little wet dreams about with the Handmaid's Tale. That is an insurrection. What That's what happens in the beginning is that the sons of Jacob are this this extremist religious group who have a view that um, their whole mo is that is basically Old Testament law. They want Old Testament law to be the rule of the land. So they literally usurp the government. They take you know they take over the United States and overthrow the government and install their own theocracy. That is the Handmaid's Tale. So people who keep trying to allude to Trump's election to being the start of the Handmaid's Tale don't know what the fuck they're talking about. that that is that is an insurrection. An insurrection is like a military uprising to overthrow the government, or people coming with weapons to overthrow the government. Neither one of those happened on January 6th, 2021. So people are stupid. However, says Obama didn't have the balls to do it. He was too scared, so he puts Biden up to it. Well, Biden was his little bulldog at some points. I'll say that, but I I don't know what you know. I don't know what Biden has run with as as far as what Obama wanted to put in place. I don't know. Um, GJC says Canada stressing with the taxes he's promised to implement on us. Mm. Sound like your leader and the president elect need to have some discussions to work things out, which I'm sure they will at some point, unless the Canadian leader is too obstinate to talk with him, which wouldn't be a good leader. Howlett says yes for office. You start local to build your record. That's true. Like I say, I was going to start local at the city council in College Park, which is a you know really it's the city of College Park, but the city of College Park is so small. It's really just a town. um, but I don't see myself running for office because one, I'm trying to leave the country, and go back overseas and stay there with my wife. And like I said, if I do anything politically here, it might be with my friend. Like I said, he would like to keep me on as an advisory role to his campaign, and that would be good for me. And it would be in like I think North Carolina somewhere, so be a lower cost of living anyway. Get out of Baltimore, so that's cool. But guys, I'm gonna go. It is 12:15. I didn't realize it was so late. Um, Agatha, if you're still here, hit me up um, on my IG, Instagram, or on my Facebook. If anyone else wants to hit me up on there, you guys can as well. It's Amon Just A Contrarian, AHMAND, JUSTACONTRARIAN. Agatha says, okay, good night. Okay. Okay, Agatha, have fun. You're in the Cayman Islands. I'm kind of jelly right now. Is that what the kids say? Jelly? It's like I'm playing. But no, seriously, hit me up. Um, I'm I'm glad you came back. Kind of haven't talked to you in a while. Hadn't talked to Eric in a while. Um, Unfortunately, like I said, I had to ban Jr. But he was being a bit of a douchebag. But like I said, he for the past 4 months, all he ever did was like talk politics and want to disagree with me, and he wanted to crash out over someone that doesn't affect him. So anyway, all right, guys, I'll talk to all you later. How long since I took a break from YouTube for a while? It's just tired. Oh no, I get it, bro. So when I get tired of YouTube, what I do is I stop looking at all that red pill stuff, all that manosphere stuff, all that news stuff. That stuff will burn you out. I watch lighthearted stuff sometimes, just sometimes watch stuff that's fun. You know what I mean? Like I watch like Secret Galaxy, which used to be called Toy Galaxy because he used to just talk about like old toys from the 80s and 90s. Now he's broadened it to like all sorts of things from the 80s and 90s. That's why he changed the name to Secret Galaxy. But he also has a second channel where he just discusses the toys that he favors for the year. You know, fun stuff or like film theory. Uh, I used to like Wisecrack, but Wisecrack became too political, so I don't even watch Wisecrack anymore. But yeah, YouTube can be enjoyable if you unplug from all the news and the politics and all the all the serious stuff because there's a lot of fun stuff on YouTube too. Like you can like see like 24-hour streaming of like your favorite stuff from back in the past, whether it's like Power Rangers or GI Joe or Transformers or He Man. Um, I'll be watching like stuff from like Seinfeld and Big Bang Theory. It like all this like you can like I said you can, if you just want to unplug from YouTube, I get it. But I'm saying also another thing is change your algorithm so that you're not getting a bunch of stuff in there that's just rage bait. Because if you watch certain stuff, then it'll the algorithm will keep feeding it to you. And they'll just if you watch like some newsy type stuff, they'll start feeding you stuff that can be like rage bait. You know what I mean? Unplug from that rage bait stuff, even on other platforms like YouTube and Instagram, because they'll do the same thing. If you start watching some certain stuff, they'll keep feeding that into your algorithm as well, because they think that you'll like more of it. Harmless is I watched Dharma and Greg over for a while. That's cool. I've never seen them, but yeah, I get it, dude. That like I said, when I unplug, I'll start watching like a lot of anime. Like the new season of Demon Slayer is back, so I'm watching that. Um, Catching up on One Piece. Um, they got this new Netflix anime called Daten or something like that. It's pretty cool. So I'll watch fun stuff like that, or I've been watching for fun sometimes those pop the balloon and find love videos. If you never heard of those are hilarious. Like these women will pop the balloon for anything. Like the guy would just walk up, pop like every balloon pop 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 pop, and the host would come up. So why did you pop the balloon? I don't like the look of his lip. Like it'll be something stupid like that. Like it, it's really goofy. But anyway, I'm gonna go. But yeah. When stuff in the real world or on news starts stressing you out, just start watching fun stuff like Dharma and Greg. Like I said, for me, it'll be like Seinfeld, Frasier, Big Bang Theory, How I Met Your Mother, stuff like that. So, but all right, guys, I'm out. Tomorrow when I come back, it's going to be something non-political, I promise. And like I said, unless something happens in the news world tomorrow, um, I'm going to do something completely devolved from politics tomorrow. But all right, guys, I'll talk to you later. Agatha, hit me up, okay? All right, guys, talk to you later.